Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. It had been a little over a week since Naruto's deal with the devil, as Sakura had so aptly anointed it. In that amount of time, Karin had not called Naruto about any work, nor had she summoned him to her mansion to go over his game plan for how he would be trying to rise through the rankings. Not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, Naruto took advantage of the free time available to him without Karin looking over his shoulder. He merely trained, spent time with his friends, and worked, splitting his time between the three things evenly for the most part. At the moment, on that Sunday, since he had the day off from school and had decided to give himself a day off from taking jobs, he decided to drop by Sakura's house. Dressed simply, he strode down the street leisurely in a pair of orange athletic shorts, a black t-shirt with a satellite image of a hurricane in dark colors, and a pair of black sandals. The good kind, the kind that had support like the ones he wore back in Konoha. Chances were, he was more than likely about to do the former two things that he had spent the entire week doing, hanging out with a friend, training, only this time with her. Crash. Asterisk. Hearing a very loud smashing noise, Naruto ran in the direction of it since it was coming from the direction of Sakura's home. Rounding the corner and reaching the street that had the side of her home, he stopped when he came upon the tall wooden fence that closed off backyards in that neighborhood. There was a jagged hole punched right through it twice the size of his head. Looking through the hole with a grin on his face, he saw a human-sized dummy right by the fence strung up from a tree branch near the fence that was pretty much untouched, and Sakura standing 20 feet away, her hands still extended from what Naruto presumed was a Hadoken, a mortified red blush on her face at being seen after such an attempt. Well, things would still be alright for her as long as he didn't say anything. "You missed a Hadoken, didn't you? Damn it." Naruto shoved his entire top half of his body through the hole and wriggled himself through for shits and giggles, just to pick on Sakura a bit. What happened? He really wanted to know, in case the explanation was even funnier in reality than his imagination made it. Sakura crossed her arms over her chest and turned away from him, getting Naruto to roll his eyes. "I already know, I just want to hear you say it." Sakura was wearing a red windbreaker jacket with a white stripe going down the sleeves and a pair of black leggings that stopped at her thighs for her casual clothes. "You know how the more power I put into my Hadoken, the less distance they get." Naruto nodded, knowing that when decently charged up, Sakura's Hadoken barely went further than Dan's variation of the attack. Still, he sure as hell wouldn't want to be hit by one. "Well, when I just fire instead of holding it, I get better distance. I just can't aim it when I do it that fast." "Oh, don't worry, I can tell," Naruto quipped before Sakura fired a Hadoken and hit the dummy Naruto was standing next to. "Hey, you got it that time. I was aiming at you." "That's not nice, Sakura-chan." Shaking her head with a playful scowl on her face at his pout, Sakura walked over to Naruto and popped him in the shoulder lightly for him messing with her. Reaching up, she messed up his hair further until he moved her hand away. She let out a laugh before looking at the massive hole in the fence. Naruto, could you fix that for me really quick?" "Really quick?" Naruto repeated in a skeptical voice before whining outright. "Sakura-chan, it's my day off. I don't want to fix your wall right now. Not for free, at least," he added in the end, getting her jaw to go quite slack. "You're charging me?" she asked incredulously. "This isn't the first time you've done this," Naruto said, not budging on the matter as he crossed his arms over his chest stoutly. "I fixed your stupid fence 5 times already since you started using ki, for free. And now I'm just supposed to fix it because I was here for it." "No way. You've got clones," Sakura tried to stress, pointing out Naruto's free workforce. "We could just hang out while they fix it. I am not your one-stop shop for cheap labor." "Not today, Dadbao." Naruto then felt Sakura latch onto his legs tightly, getting him to squint his eyes at her. "What the hell are you doing?" "Naruto, please fix the fence." Sakura more or less begged him, not letting go of his legs. if mom sees this when she gets home, she'll ground me for weeks. She already told me to be careful when I practice around the house. A puff of smoke engulfed Naruto and Sakura then found herself hugging the training dummy. How do you keep doing that? She asked as she stood back up and let the dummy fall to the ground. You left my hands free when you hugged me, Naruto responded from his crouched perch up in her tree by the fence where he had gotten the dummy for his kawarimi. And now he was just a hop away from getting himself out of Sakura's yard and far away from the house if she chased him away. She couldn't fix that fence herself, and she didn't get enough money to actually pay Naruto to fix it. Naruto was kind of expensive. She could probably only barely afford to buy the wood if she needed to. I'll fight you for it. Sakura abruptly blurted out, getting Naruto to tilt his head in confusion. I'll fight you, and if I win you have to fix the hole for free. Come on. Bring it on. Naruto actually considered it for a moment. He hadn't actually gone up against Sakura in a while. The last time he fought her though, they tore up the backyard and took out more than a few of the tiles on the roof of her house. He could still hear Sakura's mother yelling at them once it was over. That memory was enough to dissuade him. No. What do I get out of it? You can have the knowledge that you beat me, she ventured with a smile. Naruto returned the smile wryly as he seemed to sit in the tree like a cat. I always beat you. You've got to do better than that if you want me to fix the stupid fence, Sakura-chan. I don't want to fight today, it's my day off. I'll take you to the ramen bar you like, and buy you whatever you want. Deal. Naruto hurriedly agreed. Sakura palmed her face, but still pointed to the shed in the far corner of the backyard where the wood was kept. She might as well help him, because if her little brother Tsukushi got home and saw the hole in the fence he would still snitch on her, and she would still get in trouble. Hours later, downtown Aohura City. Naruto could be seen through the curtains of a ramen bar eating happily and sitting next to a distraught-looking Sakura as she tried to convince Naruto to stop at 5 bowls before he bankrupted her. The person watching him from a safe distance atop another building nearby took note of Naruto's rather gluttonous appetite and disengaging attitude. So, this is the ninja from Aohura City. The figure said stoically with a frown on their face. This guy, I wonder how legit he is. The frown that was on the person's face deepened when he saw Naruto and Sakura walk outside and try to cross the street, ending with Naruto getting chased by a motorcycle rider all the way down the long road and around the corner at the end of it with Sakura trying to follow him. Wow. Well, he's fast like a ninja. Laughs. I guess I'll find out later. Evening. Naruto's apartment. On the way home after the rather chaotic series of events that followed Sakura treating Naruto to lunch dinner, Sakura exhaled in an audible huff of sorts. Boy, that escalated quickly. A somewhat scuffed up Sakura said as she and a dirty and smudged Naruto walked up to his apartment building. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. It jumped up a notch, Naruto uttered, scratching the dried blood from a head wound suffered during the previous fight off of his face. It did, didn't it? Sakura thought in amazement. Having never been there in person for most of them, she sure hoped that wasn't how all of Naruto's gang fights went. Pure insanity. Aohura City's police force absolutely ed if he got away with all of that on a regular basis. Yeah, Naruto admitted with something of an impressed tone. I thought Batsu was going to kill that one guy. Today was not normal. It actually brought a special brand of crazy, and it was supposed to be his day off. Even his actual fights against gang weren't that tough. Today was not one of those days because his opponents were all trained and rather skilled from his experience of dealing with them before. If not for some timely intervention, it would have been 4-on-1 and he'd be on a strict ramen broth diet for the foreseeable future. I saw that. Batsu put that guy with the eraser hair and the knives in the hospital. I swear he had to have. Did he throw a motorcycle? Sakura said with wide eyes at recalling watching Batsu pick up an entire 500 pounds racing bike over his head to chuck it at some of their opponents to help Naruto and her in the fight. Even one of her other friends got involved to help out. Naruto's eyes brightened in memory of just how ridiculous everything got in under 3 minutes. Yeah, there was fire and explosions, and Batsu threw a motorcycle, and I'm pretty sure I accidentally copped a feel or something. By the way, where'd you get a grenade? That wasn't a grenade, that was a full power Hadoken. Sakura said, remembering how impressed she was by herself. The damn thing didn't go far at all, but it was bigger than her entire body when she threw it. Her brain then glossed over something Naruto may or may not have said. Wait, what was the last thing you said? Naruto instantly averted his face away from Sakura's so she wouldn't see his expression. Seriously, what happened after I lost you when you ran away? That whole thing was like the perfect storm. A red blush sprang to Naruto's face, remembering the chain of events that led to the massive cluster of a fight in town as they made it to the opening by the stairs that led to Naruto's floor of the complex. There was a lot of stuff you guys weren't there for, Sakura-chan. I don't wanna talk about it. Thanks for getting Batsu and your friend Natsu though. I really needed the help. It really was a long chain of events starting with him running from that motorcycle outside of the ramen stand. No problem. Anytime, Sakura replied, focusing more on her rather utterly ruined outfit from the events of the afternoon. She didn't know if she had been better off hedging her bets with the hole in the gate, or going home with those totally messed up clothes, but there was no way she was taking her clothes off in Naruto's house and walking home in his baggy crap. Besides, her mother would remember what she was wearing earlier that day and she'd never keep the secret for long. I'll see you in school tomorrow, Naruto. Bye. Naruto waved goodbye as Sakura started off of the property and stopped to stare for a moment when he saw a bloody handprint going down her back and stopping on her backside. Whose blood is that? He asked belligerently, getting her attention once again. Sakura looked onto her back as best she could and frowned before shrugging. Not mine. With that she just continued on to her house and Naruto went up to his floor. Opening the door to his place, Naruto kicked off his shoes, walked in, and shut the door behind himself before quickly shrugging off his quite beaten up clothes, leaving him in yellow boxers with green frogs on them. He needed a shower to get the blood and dirt and whatnot off of his body after the free-for-all he and his friends had wound up in downtown. How was I supposed to know? He muttered to himself, remembering what exactly lit the powder keg earlier as he stepped into his shower with the water running. Crazy bitch tried to run me down. After he had sufficiently cleaned himself of the remnants of battle, he stepped out of the shower and threw on his pajamas as he left to his room to attend to his much-neglected homework. He could slack off later in the year, but not right then. He needed some goodwill with his teacher at the moment. Leaving to the living room area to grab his backpack that he hadn't touched since he had dropped it there the day before on Saturday, Naruto stopped cold once he reached the room. The reason being because he saw someone in the connecting kitchen raiding his fridge, though their body was out of his view due to the door of the refrigerator and the table in the kitchen in his line of sight. At that moment Naruto did some mental deductions. Sakura. No. She had just left. If she was going to come in she would have come in right then. Even though she had a key she never used it unless she was certain he wasn't there. Good girl to not abuse the responsibility of the key. Batsu. No. Not him either. If it was Batsu then he would have been way louder and Naruto would have known even in his shower despite the fact that his apartment complex had some thick walls. Besides, Batsu lived all the way on the other side of Aohura City, and after the scrum they had gotten into that day it was more than likely the first thing he did was go home to get a shower, some muscle rub, and some rest, same as Naruto and Sakura. Karin. PFF'd. Yeah right. Karin didn't have a key, but that probably wouldn't have stopped her from somehow getting in anyway. She probably would have ordered his landlord to open the door for her, rich girl. But she definitely wouldn't be in his fridge if she even had been there. She didn't eat commoner food and she'd verbally tear into anyone that tried to make her, if not physically tear into them. So he didn't know this person. Great. That meant that he didn't have to feel sorry for what he was about to do with the lamp he picked up off of the table nearby. At least he wouldn't have felt sorry for it, if not for the little tanuki that dashed out from underneath his couch and latched firmly onto his groin with its teeth. In hindsight, Naruto liked to believe that the yell he let out at that point wasn't as high-pitched as it seemed to him immediately upon leaving his throat. It had to have been a bit more masculine than it sounded. Men didn't sound like that. Alarmed by Naruto's yell, the figure at the refrigerator looked up from behind the door with an onigiri sticking out of her mouth. From that point she simply chewed on the rice ball and stood back, watching Naruto panic and roll around all over the apartment in an effort to get the tanuki off of his privates. When Naruto finally realized that he still had the lamp in his hand and raised it to strike at the ornery tanuki, the female in the kitchen made a sharp whistle that called the animal off. However, as the tanuki jumped off of him, Naruto had already swung the lamp at it and wound up hitting himself in the testicles with the lamp for his troubles. This was just not his day at all. The tanuki ran into the kitchen and hopped up on the person's shoulder as she made fond kissing noises to it. "You're such a good boy, Don-chan. Protecting me when my back is turned." Hearing the feminine voice over the sounds of his own rampant cursing and shouting, Naruto blinked the tears of pain out of his eyes to get a good look at just who was in his house. From the legs up, he got his view. Cloth bandages wrapped around the back part of the person's feet, their shins, and their ankles. From that point up they wore brown baggy pants tight where the bandages started, but loose everywhere else. Around the waist, the pants exposed the outside of her thighs and some of the insides almost all the way up to the hips where the belt of the pants were tied. Tucked into the baggy pants she, yes, most definitely a she by now, he was certain of it, wore sleeveless upper garment, and from the V-neck of the garment she had a face mask that was pulled down at the moment, probably so she could eat, and had brown arm guards. She had black hair with 3 sharp bangs sticking out of the front of her brown bandana on her head and 2 long ponytails sticking out of the upper back of the bandana. She wasn't attacking him though. There must have been no need to add injury to injury in this case. He hadn't even dressed his wounds from the street fight earlier. "Could you grab me an ice pack from the freezer?" Naruto asked, and thus received when the girl threw one to him. She was a ninja, or at least dressed the part, but at the moment he felt cold relief on his nether region, and that wasn't a bad thing. "Why are you in my house?" The girl sat up on the counter in Naruto's kitchen and crossed her legs as she fed the rest of her rice ball to the tanuki on her shoulder. "I heard that there was a clan-less ninja in this part of Japan, and I figured that I'd just pop in to say hello, so, hello. A ninja breaking into my house. To say hello," Naruto said as he dragged himself into a sitting position in his living room couch. "Really? What do you want?" He narrowed his eyes at her. "If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get." The ninja girl hopped off of his counter and waved her arms in front of herself defensively. No, I'm not here to kill you, or even to fight. I really did just want to meet you." "Why? I want to hire you." "Hire him? That was kind of weird, wasn't it? She was a ninja, so why would she need another ninja? It didn't make any sense. What can I do that you can't? Wait, I don't even know who you are. I definitely don't work for people I don't know." Ignoring all of the times he took jobs from clients he'd meet for the first time. "My name's Ibuki," the girl said cheerfully as she pointed to the tanuki still eating on her shoulder. "This is Don-chan. He's my pet," she explained. "Sorry about the whole biting your junk thing. You walk so quietly, I didn't even know you were there, even when you didn't know I was here." She walked over to where Naruto was sitting and grabbed a chair from the kitchen to sit down in once she figured he probably didn't want her that close. From the way he was moving his hand towards the edge of the couch cushion he probably had a weapon under the cushion. "So, let's talk business." Uzumaki Naruto. Used to people he never met knowing who he was by now, Naruto still didn't move his hand away from a position where he could quickly use his kunai. What does a ninja want with a ninja anyway? And why can't you just ask your own clan to do this? Ibuki laughed sheepishly and rubbed the back of her neck in an almost Naruto-like fashion. "I kind of ran away from my village." Naruto's eyes widened in alarm. "You're a missing nin." "A what?" Ibuki replied in confusion before continuing to explain herself. "I didn't leave for good. Just for a while to have a bit of fun. It's so boring there." She let out a put-upon sigh. All I've ever done since I was little was just train, and train, and train. I just wanted a bit of a break, maybe meet some cute boys outside of my village or something. I dunno. Naruto made a noise of skeptical understanding as he looked at her with squinted eyes. And why do you want to hire me? I'm being chased, and I need backup, Ibuki admitted, her face turning from the pretty easygoing, sweet look from before to one that was serious. Yeah, he hadn't even seen her fight or even move outside of walking to a chair, but that was a ninja's reaction to being pursued by someone dangerous. That's why I want to hire you for protection, or assistance, when they attack me. I'm not getting scared back home just because of some loser Geki ninja punks. So watch my back, would you? After Ibuki finished talking, Naruto simply sat there and stared at her for a bit before getting up, grabbing her by the hand and pushing her to the front door. It's late, I'm all beat up, and it's my day off. I even put it on my answering machine that I was taking a break today. So try again tomorrow afternoon after I get out of school. Good luck with the whole ninja assassins coming after you thing. He managed to get Ibuki to the door before she realized that he was kicking her out, and she managed to stop herself once he opened his door by pushing back against the doorframe to try and resist. Wait. You're kicking me out. Can't you help a girl in need? Don't you have some kind of nindo that goes against this or something? Naruto strained against the young kunoichi in an effort to shove her out as he wanted no part of this today. My nindo is that I never run away and I never give up or go back on my word. Well, I'm not giving up on kicking you out, and I'm not going back on my word when I say I'm going to kick you out. She was pretty strong for a teenage girl though, and had the leverage, and her tanuki was scratching his face up. You never told me why you broke in either instead of just knocking on the door or calling the business number. About that, Ibuki said, still struggling to stay inside the apartment. When I said I was being chased, I meant on the way here too. After about 15 seconds of continued pushing back and forth, Naruto's brain kicked into gear and registered what Ibuki had just said to him. That statement got Naruto to stop trying to show her the door. Naruto simply walked past her outside and looked over the ledge of his floor of the apartment complex to see about 15 shadowy figures on the rooftops across the street from the building. The running commentary going on inside of his head projected itself in the form of a scream, ah. Outwardly though, he took a deep breath, turned and walked back to his apartment where he moved Ibuki out of the way and shut the door, locking it and making sure the blinds and curtains to his windows were all shut. Once that was done, Naruto turned to the girl and started crying animatedly. Why did you bring them to my house? Now they think I'm with you. Ibuki moved back towards Naruto's couch and plopped down on it where he had been sitting before. Sorry. There wasn't anywhere else to go. They caught up to me outside of Aohura City. I couldn't lose them with all of the lights downtown, so I ran to the safest place I could think of. Another ninja's house. She idly reached under the couch cushion and pulled out a Fuma shuriken, unfolding all four sides and marveling momentarily at it, overcompensating for something. Cutie. Her response was Naruto's pajama shirt being thrown over her head while he walked back into his room. Hey. This can't be happening, Naruto said to himself as he shut the door to his room and started changing into his actual fighting gear. An orange one-piece jumpsuit with a hood he kept down that was loose in the pants with a blue belt that held his equipment and bandages around his ankles. He pulled on a pair of blue 4-ounce gloves that Sakura had bought him for his birthday so that he'd stop messing up his hands all the time and walked back out, pointing at her accusingly. You put this evil on me. How do I make them go away? Kick their butts. Ibuki said, shrugging in confusion. I don't know. I've never fought this many Geki clan ninja at once before. My sensei told us that our clan is derived from a Geki ninja that left them, so they hate us and want us destroyed. They probably think you're with my clan or something since I came here. We can't stay here, we won't make it until sunrise, I can promise you that. At that point the power was cut out, see? Ibuki chirped. Helpfully. Damn it. Okay. That certainly wasn't good. What is with today? Is it National Let's Screw Naruto Over Day. It had to be a bad moon or something because this was ridiculous. Naruto walked into his kitchen with Ibuki following him and she watched him go under his sink in the cabinet to pull out a false wall that led to a small, dark crawlspace. Come on. I guess I can't let you get killed by those guys out there. Really? Ibuki said as her Tanuki Don-chan ran through the space to wherever the exit on the other side was. Yes, damn you, Naruto replied, gesturing for her to go as he went to grab his good sandals from by the door. Just go already, he couldn't even charge her for the service because they'd have tried to kill him too. He followed her in and shut the doors to the cabinet as he was the last to go through, grumbling the entire way. You're a really nice guy, you know that. Ibuki said as she and Naruto ran along the moon-bathed rooftops with her Tanuki Don-chan hanging onto her shoulder tightly. I was expecting someone all gloomy and serious like most of the ninja in my village, but you're kind of cool. Why are you not taking this seriously? Naruto snapped at her, looking back over his shoulder to see that the black-clad Geki ninja were beginning to give chase in earnest, all with claws on their right hands. Shit, should we just stop and fight? Ibuki pulled her face mask up over her mouth and raised her eyebrow at Naruto. Why are you asking me? Aren't you supposed to be the famous one here? Not for real reasons. Naruto thought to himself, actually thinking better than to say that out loud. We can't just run away all night, and I left my damn phone in the apartment. Smooth. Oh, shut up, lady. This is your fault anyway, Naruto said with a twitching eye. So, between the three of us, we've got the baddest ninja on the face of the planet in myself, whatever you are, and a gigantic rat, all to fight 15 of these guys. Don-chan hissed at Naruto for being called a giant rat while Ibuki addressed her own rundown from Naruto. I'm a kunoichi in training by the way. What? Naruto shouted as they kept running, but in my village, I graduated way before this. How are you still in training? You don't seem to at this. Ibuki took offense to that as a tick mark appeared on her forehead. Hey, we all can't be geniuses like you. Your village must think you're pretty hot stuff to give you free rein to do whatever you want. I'm a freshman in my high school back home. They don't really let us skip grades in ninja school no matter how good we can fight so we can learn about the outside world. People get killed like that, even though the education's high school. Just when Naruto thought he had a decent enough handle on this world, it just kept getting weirder and weirder. Ninja high school. Okay. Sure. Why not? Duck. Ibuki tackled Naruto to the rooftop to avoid a large shuriken thrown at his head. Man, that was close. She stood back up and stood in a fighting stance as the first of the 15 caught up to them. Alright, you jerks have been chasing me for days, so go ahead and show me what you've got. She shouted, goading the Geki ninja on. Bring it. I've got someone to watch my back now. Naruto jumped back up to his feet and stood back to back with Ibuki when he saw Geki ninja coming from his own side of things, right? It's just 15 guys. We can kick their easy, right? Absolutely. Now let's do this. Ibuki and Naruto both threw a barrage of shuriken all over to scatter the Geki ninja and began actually fighting once they had them good and separated. The first move Ibuki made had her show absurd short-range speed when she after imaged right at someone in a sliding move, rolling through into a handspring and seeming like she kicked off of air to grab a hold of her first opponent's neck from behind. Two more Geki ninja tried to react, not caring that their comrade was a hostage, but Ibuki used him like a human shield and put the two others down with kunai that hit them in the head and neck respectively, Kyubi-ki, neckbreaker. With a sharp crack, Ibuki dropped the lifeless ninja and moved on. The next one got close enough to start a close-range fight with her that had Ibuki dodging claw strikes until she felt comfortable to counter, and counter she did with a fist-charged blue and full of ki, Rata lightning strike. The punch landed low, right in the opponent's ribs, but after the point of impact, the ki jolted outward like a bolt of lightning into the opponent and out through the other side, blasting him away from her. Four more ninja appeared on all cardinal sides of Ibuki out of nowhere, bringing their claws from four sides in a pincer swing, but she simply shot up into the sky and let loose her next move, Kasumi Suzaku, Mist Vermilion Sparrow. She let loose a lightning-quick barrage of deadly metal projectiles, riddling them full of weaponry like they were training dummies. The only difference was these people bled when they were hit. Naruto on the other hand found himself surrounded rather quickly due to his desire to fight in close, damn it. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto formed a ring of clones around himself that drew kunai and defended him from the claws while the original jumped into the air in the center of the ring and made a trio of hand seals, Chakura Tenki Sha Chakra Spitfire. He fired one shot that nailed an opponent in the head, breaking his neck from the force of the chakra projectile. 3 other Geki ninja that had been fighting with Naruto's protective clones and had beaten them jumped into the air to murder him with their claws only for that Naruto to disappear in a puff of smoke, leaving an open Fuma shuriken in his place with a wire attached to it. With a sharp tug of the wire it began to spin at a deadly velocity and cut the ninja down out of the sky. The original Naruto then yanked hard on the wire and pulled it back towards himself while 3 more Geki ninja advanced on him. He jumped over the deadly spinning blade and let it cut down 2 of the enemies while the third one got through. Maybe a half-assed, half-suicidal version of a move he saw Sasuke do, but he didn't have Sharingan, damn it, and he'd take what he could get. The last Geki ninja attacking Naruto swung a claw at him in a rapid, deadly wall of violence. Lifting a kunai to block that barrage would have resulted in the loss of an arm, so Naruto just backstepped for all he was worth, holding his right hand behind his back and out of sight until it was too late for the enemy to react to Naruto's move as he dug in his feet and drove his right hand forward with a nasty little surprise. Rasengan, Spiraling Sphere. Naruto's Rasengan smacked the claw and shattered it. The strike broke the Geki ninja's balance in addition to the claw, and Naruto spun through with his move to bring it back again, this time grabbing the ninja's collar to drag him into the devastating jutsu for much more damage. Go to sleep. And go to sleep he did, as the angry red spiral mark that tore through his clothing and left an impression on his chest belied the internal injuries that the Rasengan dealt him, sending his lifeless body flying into 2 more Geki ninja approaching to try and reinforce. All of them fell brutally from the rooftop and would not be getting back up from the angle they landed at. What kind of moves were those? Ibuki wondered, making her way over to Naruto after the rooftop seemed completely cleared. Half of those moves were totally insane. She stopped talking once both of them sensed another presence and put one last ambushing Geki ninja down with a pair of kunai, one from Naruto in the chest, one from Ibuki in the head. There. Are we done now? Duck. This time it was Naruto that tackled Ibuki to the rooftop to avoid a claw attack from one more waiting in the shadows to finish them in case of failure. The claw slashed him across his back, but he was able to get her down safely, with the tiles giving way and the 2 ninjas sliding off of the roof to land in a bush below, Ibuki on top of Naruto. That was close. Thanks for the save, by the way. I owe you one, she said, winking at him before noticing him grimace. What's the matter? We landed in a thorn bush, Naruto whispered out in absurd amounts of pain at this point. Ow. Ibuki quickly hopped up to give Naruto some relief from his place in the thorn bush and looked back where the enemy had been only to find the man dead on the rooftop where they left him. Smiling at figuring that Naruto put him down while in the process of saving her, she turned her attention back to Naruto. Does your back hurt? Yes. Naruto whispered without hesitation before he felt Ibuki grab onto his wrist and forearm and a look of fear came to his eye. What are you about to do? An apologetic look graced her face as she held on tightly to Naruto's arm. I know this is probably going to sting a bit, but I need to get you out of there before you get infected or something, okay? On 3. 1, 2. Sakura's house. OWWW. Motherer. Why don't you just throw me back in for what it's worth? Sakura sat up in her bed with a start as that loud noise from outside split the air. The sleepy girl got up out of bed and walked over to her window, lifting it up to get a good look at the seemingly still night. That sounded like Naruto. She kept looking around for a moment before shaking her head and shutting the window. She was going back to bed. If he didn't call, then there wasn't a problem. And even if there was, that yell meant he was alive and well enough to bitch and complain about it. She'd figure out exactly what was up tomorrow morning. Later, Naruto's apartment. Laying face down on his bed with the top of his fighting outfit pulled down, Naruto's face was stuck in a pillow to muffle his indignant yelling while he slammed a fist on the bed. Ibuki sat on the edge of the bed with a pair of tweezers picking the remainder of the dozens of thorns Naruto had out of the back of his neck, torso, arms, and legs. Stop whining, you big baby. For a famous fighter and ninja, you really act like a kid, Ibuki said, finishing picking thorns out of Naruto's back and grabbing a bottle of rubbing alcohol for disinfectant. If you didn't like that, then you really aren't going to like this. And with that, she poured the alcohol on his back, more specifically on his large claw/wound. The splash damage managed to get his thorn holes too, but that was not the important thing. I think I hate you, Naruto whined into his pillow as Ibuki dressed his wound. I've never said that to anyone before, and I just met you tonight, but I think I might hate you. As she finished placing the bandage on his back and gently pat it down, Naruto let out a sigh of relief, since that meant his pain was all over. Thank you. No, thank you, Ibuki said, standing up and bowing to Naruto, who turned his head to the side to look at her. You really helped me out tonight. Naruto nodded in response. No problem, yes. Yes, problem. This crap, compounded with everything else that had happened that day, wasn't going to heal by morning. Sunrise was 3 hours away. What a day off. You needed the help. And I told you, I'm the greatest ninja alive, he finished with a grin. Wince. He certainly didn't feel like the greatest ninja alive, but if he said it enough, it would eventually be true, right? Really? You've been super helpful, Ibuki continued, getting to her knees and bowing again once more, her head rising with a sweet smile. So, I was wondering if you could do one more thing to help me for a while. I kind of need a place to stay for a bit. Why did no one ever tell him girls could be so absurdly dangerous and troublesome? Wait, Shikamaru had been telling him that all along. He really should have taken the guy with the 200+ IQ's word for it. I do not think that is possible anymore, young lady. Ibuki's smile twisted into one of slight horror, and Naruto just lifted his eyes to the doorway of the room, where he saw a tall, muscular man wearing a red tan pants, glasses on his face, and a red bandana on his head. Damn it, how many of you guys are going to break into my house tonight? If he wasn't a ninja, he'd have gotten sick of the whole thing by now. Are you here to kill me too? Or get me killed too? Those are the only two options I've gotten all night long, Naruto mouthed off, despite looking rather vulnerable at the moment. Laughing sheepishly, Ibuki turned around to sit down, rubbing the back of her head nervously. Ha ha ha, hi Sanju-sensei, what brings you to Aohura City? You did, the man Sanju said sternly before sighing. You snuck out of the village, Ibuki. Not only is this forbidden, but you've just seen how dangerous it is to leave by yourself. It's time to come back home with me. You're given enough liberties at your request because you are a splendid student. Are you really this set on flaunting the rules we've set? Sensei, Ibuki said, looking quite pitiful. It's just, I want to see a bit of the world. Even if it's not that far, even if it's just for a little bit. This was actually really great. No, it wasn't great. Not for me. Naruto snapped from his place on the bed while Dawn curled up to sleep right by his head. I took a claw in the back, Ibeo. Right, Ibuki said while pointing at Naruto. It was mostly great, except for having to fight the Geki ninja. But even that had some good points to it. Aohura City is such a nice place. It's so interesting here. I even met a ninja that doesn't have to stay in his village, and he's my age. And he's so strong. You should have seen the fight, sensei. I think he could have beaten them all by himself. I did indeed see, Sanju said. You almost got him killed at the very end. You need more seasoning, Ibuki. That's why I want to go out more often, Ibuki continued, not relenting on her own stance even against her sensei. The fight got her blood boiling, and she hadn't fully settled down yet. I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. Really, I do. And I'm loyal, but I just want a little more, I don't know, free will. Can I at least go to a regular school? Sanju didn't seem to budge much during the conversation except for a slight softening of his face. This is something to be taken up with Master Enju. But you must return with me now. This is your first offense, and like I said, you are one of the brightest young ninja we have. You should not be reprimanded too severely. He then gestured towards Naruto. Besides, you cannot impose upon this young man any more than you already have. I think I'm allergic to Tanukas, Naruto said with a congested sniffle as Don-chan continued to rest by his face. Ibuki looked from the very wounded Naruto to her sensei and let out a sigh as she stood up and grabbed Don-chan from Naruto's bed. All right, I'll go. She said in a defeated voice before turning to Naruto himself. Thank you for everything you've done tonight, Uzumaki Naruto. I truly appreciate it. You're a really good friend. Hey, you're actually my first friend on the outside. Take care of yourself, Ibuki, Naruto said, still laying down with a smile on his face, and don't take your village for granted. This guy here, I don't know him, but he seems to care about you a lot. Sanju nodded and spared Naruto a ghost of a smile. Sanju gestured for Ibuki to follow him out of Naruto's house and she did so, stopping at the doorway of Naruto's room and waving at him with a sad smile before leaving with her master. The door to the apartment clicked shut and Naruto felt that he was left alone. Well, that had been the most chaotic day he had experienced in quite some time. He didn't know exactly how much of this to tell his friends about, possibly thinking about omitting the part where he fought over a dozen trained assassins and took a claw to the back. And now, he was never going to get any sleep. It was less than 3 hours until sunrise, and he was all jazzed up from the chase and the fight, plus his back felt like someone was holding him over an open flame. That, also added onto the fact that now that she was gone, he came to the realization that Ibuki was extremely beautiful. Yeah, he was never getting to sleep now that. Z's. Never mind. 4 days later, Tamagawa Minami High School. It's the truth, Sakura-chan. Naruto said as he walked through the halls after lunch with Sakura and Kei. He wished Batsu was there. Not only would Batsu believe him without question, with all of the ninjas that had been running around the place, he would probably be upset that Naruto didn't call him to get involved. I don't know what you two are laughing about. You saw the scratch on my back from the claw. I've been telling you the same story all week. We also fought one heck of a street fight on Sunday, Sakura said, calming down her laughing long enough to speak. So, what seems more believable? That you got really hurt during that fight and didn't notice it until later when you got home, or that you coincidentally met a ninja running from a platoon of shadowy assassins and got hurt fighting them in an old school full moon rooftop showdown. Kei put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and chuckled gently. Yeah, Naruto. You told Sakura-chan and me the story every day since Monday morning, and I've got to say, nobody can be that unlucky. That's running a gauntlet from hell. It sounds like something out of Ninja Gaiden, Sakura giggled. Uzumaki. Naruto cringed and turned around to find himself looking at the rather burly, bald, mustachioed principal of their school. The man never really liked Naruto, figuring him more of a delinquent that just didn't do much in school to be openly labeled as one. Still, the man had to admit, kid didn't fail exams, even short answer tests. It was like he was looking at the answers right in front of him from the books, or getting them told to him somehow, but that was impossible as he gave teachers explicit orders to watch Naruto closely. Yes, Naruto responded, not wanting to do something to cause the man to burst a blood vessel. Did I do something? He seemed to ask too innocently for his or anyone else's good. Did you do something? If you can't prove it, then no, I didn't. The man palmed his face with an audible smack, moving his hand to show the print left on his face. I really don't care right now, he groaned. We have a new student, and you're the one that's going to show them around. To the main office with you. What? Why me? Fine. You can just go back to class and sit for the rest of school instead of giving a tour for the rest of the day. Naruto was already at the end of the hallway by the time that sentence was finished. Later, K. Bye, Sakura-chan. I'll catch up to you guys when the final bell rings. He then rounded the corner and headed to the main office. Woo. Free permission to skip. This week is looking up. With a big closed-eye grin and a spring in his step, it didn't take long before Naruto rounded the corner to the main office to pick up who he was supposed to be giving a tour to, deciding to make a first impression to the new student with some oomph behind it. Yo. I'm looking for the new kid here. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, and I'll be giving the tour today to show you where stuff is. What's up? He said in a friendly, yet very boisterous manner until he opened his eyes and saw who was sitting outside in the lobby. He then promptly paled and pointed in shock. No way. Why are you here? Sitting on the bench dressed in the school's uniform and no bandana or any ninja wear at all this time was Ibuki, who looked herself over before answering Naruto. Well, can't you see from the uniform? I go here now. She stood up and walked over to him, circling him thrice before patting him on the back. That healed up really good if it still doesn't hurt. Naruto whirled around and faced her with an accusatory stare. Don't change the subject. I thought you had a school back in your village. You're not supposed to leave, right? Upon hearing that breakdown of her situation, Ibuki smiled brightly. Master Enju is allowing me to go to a normal school as long as I get up early every morning to train. And I figured out which school you went to, so she trailed off in the end. Damn it, it is too easy to find me, Naruto muttered to himself miserably. Ibuki couldn't help but nod in agreement. Why here? Why my school? You're the first person I've met outside of my village that I didn't have to fight. Ibuki said, fidgeting a bit bashfully while trying to find the words to express what she was trying to say to him. You had my back. You're a trustworthy person. I'm not sure I'd feel this comfortable so far from home if I didn't have a friend with me. Naruto started to soften in his stance. How angry could someone really get because someone else wanted to go to a school? Not very, all things considered, even if the someone wound up directly or indirectly throwing him into the night from hell. And Ibuki was a nice person. In the end, Naruto simply didn't have it in him to alienate someone who wanted to be his friend. Hell, he never figured he'd even have that option. It just went to show how different this world was from his own. Alright, let's go then, Naruto said, getting Ibuki's face to brighten up, something that got his own to do the same. But you're a ninja, so we're doing this the ninja way. I hope you're good at making traps because that's what we're doing today all over the school. Non-lethal, he added for clarification purposes. However, Ibuki already knew what he was hinting at before he even added the last part. She gasped and hit him lightly on his shoulder. You're bad, but she did a lot of the same when she was in her village. Maybe now more of her prank traps would work on people that weren't ninja themselves. As long as they didn't get caught, of course. I like that. Yes, shadow clones were nice for making mischief around school in Naruto's opinion. They were obedient, and since they had your mindset they went about the tasks with just as much vigor as you would have yourself. But there wasn't anything like having a real partner in crime. Kei wasn't really capable of being sneaky. Sakura was too much of a good girl to help Naruto out, and none of Naruto's other friends went to his school. But Ibuki seemed to be just his speed in that department. Maybe she'd be fun without the dozens of attackers chasing her. Oh, who was he kidding? She'd probably be fun with 100 attackers chasing her. Omake. Escapades in Aohura City. A few hours after Naruto fixed Sakura's fence, downtown Aohura City. Sakura held up her wallet, breathing out a sigh of relief that she was able to stop Naruto at just 6 bowls. She had expected at least twice that, and now she had some money left over. Also, her fence was fixed. An appropriate sacrifice to the demon that more than likely dwelled within Naruto's belly. That was the only way she could reason as to his appetite for even his favorite food. Are you full? Sakura asked him upon seeing Naruto stride out of the stand with a content hand on his stomach. The boy nodded happily. Thank goodness. So now what do we do? Remember, before you answer, half of my money was just spent on your gut. Naruto, who was walking around with the chopsticks from the meal sticking idly out of his mouth as he chewed on them, just fell into step beside Sakura with his arms behind his head as they started walking down the street. I don't know what to do now. Arcade. I haven't kicked your butt at something in a while. Pass. Sakura thought aloud contemptuously. Naruto had to be cheating at all forms of video games whenever they played. A normal person's fingers should never be able to move that fast without being accused of button mashing. Damn him and those hand seals. And he said that he wasn't even that good at them. How about a movie? I don't know what's playing these days though. We can try, but I don't think we'll find anything you'll like. Naruto replied right back, hey, why don't we go mess with Karin? I know where she lives now. We can prank the hell out of her. He offered up with a saucy grin with chopsticks stuck in between. Her house is so big, we can trap a place and she probably won't get hit with it for days. That almost got Sakura to stop and think about doing it before remembering that Karin lived outside of town. Even if they caught a train in time, they'd have to walk forever to get there after disembarking. And then getting in and out of the property in one piece was another thing. She wasn't a ninja like Naruto, and she didn't think even he was logically considering his own chances of success in that venture. He was going to get himself fired or call down her wrath if he was really willing to try that. Well, we'll think of something too. Gasp, I know. We can go shopping. That. You should have called Kei or Hinata if that's what you wanted. Naruto barked out louder than he had meant to, getting the attention of everyone around him. No. Sakura proceeded to pout before the sound of an engine revving caught their attention and the two turned around to face the sound of the rather indicative noise. Turning around, both of them saw someone on a black racing motorcycle, wearing an entire leather bike outfit with spiked skulls on the shoulders of the jacket and a skull design on the front of the all-encompassing helmet. Upon being sighted by the two, the rider revved the engine again twice. Naruto, did you make a biker gang mad at you? Aohura City doesn't have real bikers, does it? I didn't think so, but we're looking at one right now. The two friends locked eyes and nodded before taking two very large steps away from each other to figure out if Naruto was indeed the point of interest. From the wheelie that was then popped in his direction, it was quite evident that it was indeed the case. Damn. Naruto repeated over and over as he turned around on his heel and took off down the street before the bike's front tire hit the ground again and it took off after him. Naruto. Sakura yelled after him with a bit of worry. He was fast, but he couldn't outrun a motor vehicle on an open road. Still, she did her best in chasing after the two on the sidewalk but at a markedly slower pace. Sakura, is that you? Where are you running to? Hearing her name called out by a familiar voice, Sakura stopped and looked for the source, her eyes brightening when she saw exactly who it was. Oh, thank goodness. I need your help really quick. Come with me, please. Racking his brain to try and figure out who he might have upset that rode bikes gave Naruto no answer as to why this was happening, but survival instincts kicked in as he eventually rounded the corner. He was lucky that the streets were too crowded further down the line for the biker to stay on the road and properly keep up with him, but that then meant that they just hopped the motorcycle onto the sidewalk to chase after while Naruto ran on top of the backed-up cars in the street. Naruto turned his head when they got side to side and paled when he saw the biker take a chain from their belt and prepare to swing it at him. What did I do to you? Naruto shouted before diving directly right, slamming his body into the bike and knocking his assailant off of the vehicle, ending with all of them catastrophically crashing into tables and chairs outside of an ice cream parlor. Fortunately, no one was harmed with the exception of the two involved. Picking himself up from underneath a patio table and chairs, Naruto held his head and looked for the nearby biker who had gotten up first due to their padding to check on their bike. The biker looked at Naruto and the two simultaneously dropped into fighting stances. Seriously, I don't know you. What the hell do you want? You beat up my brother, was the reply. The voice was muffled by the helmet. Still, it sounded like a fake voice intentionally trying to sound male. Naruto didn't manage pick up on this, figuring it was just some guy hiding their identity, trying to get him back for a previous street fight. I beat up a lot of people's brothers. But if I beat up yours, then I promise, he was the one that picked the fight with me, Naruto said in cheeky fashion before frowning. Now, take off that stupid helmet so I can kick you the right way. Before the two could start fighting, Naruto had to dodge a small army knife that was thrown at him. Turning to face the person who threw it, he couldn't help but palm his face. God, what do you guys want? The boy with his hand still outstretched from throwing the knife had his tongue stuck out slightly askew and wore a baggy purple school uniform with the jacket open to show a purple turtleneck underneath. On his head was a purple sweatband and he had his blonde hair styled up in a tall series of spikes that looked kind of like an eraser. Yamada Eiji, or Edge. He was the dirtiest fighter Naruto had ever gone up against in Aohura City, and that was saying something, seeing as how he himself was a ninja. The next was an extremely burly and hulking young man with spiky brown hair and a white headband. He wore a green uniform with one sleeve missing and with a belt made of rope over bamboo slides that seemed to look a little like rudimentary armor for one's torso. Iserugi Gon. No high school student should have been that big. He stood almost a foot taller than Naruto and was definitely more than twice the width. The last of them was the most normal looking in comparison, but from Naruto's past experiences he was the most dangerous of the three. Slicked back spiky black hair sat upon his head with a scar going horizontally down and across his left eye. He wore a blue school uniform with no modifications or perks added to it, but he was just as tall as Gon and muscular in his own right. More so than Naruto anyway. Kazama Daigo. Naruto was acquainted with all three of these young men because they were in and ranked highly in the only high school gang in the city that was actually well organized and adequate as a unit. Daigo happened to be the boss of Geto High, where all of these boys were from, and they had run across Naruto once every so often, first during Batsu's multi-school spanning trouble that he found himself in and then sporadically after that point forward. The gang picked fights with Naruto due to who he was, and when he beat up the lower tier members Daigo would take offense and then they would fight. It was like an ebb and flow kind of situation. Fighting just one of those guys when they were on point held its own slew of troubles for Naruto. He really didn't wish to fight all three of them at the same time. Clones would not be enough to keep the heat off of him since they were actually good. Aohura City had way too many people that were good at fighting for it to be one of the smaller cities in Japan. It was kind of like Konoha with all of the tough people walking around that you could bump into around any given corner, only it was the wild wild west between the different factions within the city limits. No real camaraderie in important times like back home because there were rarely any times that important. Uzumaki. Edge said upon seeing him, "What the hell's going on out here?" Naruto growled at the eraser-headed boy and shook a fist at him. "You threw a knife at me, and you don't even know what this is about. You've got problems." Edge grabbed his collar and adjusted his uniform, smirking at Naruto with his tongue hanging out to the side manically. "Tch. I owed you anyway." "Whatever," Naruto said before pointing at the helmeted biker. "This asshole started chasing me down on that stupid thing. I don't want to fight you guys, so just let me deal with Kamen Rider over here since he won't let me leave. I'll be out of your territory or whatever in a minute. You talk too much. Shut up," the biker said, still standing in a trained fighting stance. Their voice was muffled by the helmet, or better yet, "Keep on talking. I'll shut you up myself." Daigo looked between Naruto and the biker before stopping on the biker. "Akira. What are you doing picking a fight with Uzumaki? I've told you about going around with your own little vendettas because of me. I can handle myself." "But Daigo ni," the biker Akira tried to argue back, "he keeps on messing up your gang and hurting you guys. Edge and Gon are my friends too. What about them? Alright, listen up. An impatient Naruto barked, walking up to Akira directly to face the helmet and pointing in its face. I don't start these fights, so if you really want a piece of me you can. Naruto poked Akira in the chest indignantly, but upon doing so felt it to be squishier than he expected a man's chest to be. He repeated the action several more times in confusion before putting his hands directly on Akira's chest. This doesn't feel right. Uzumaki. Daigo bellowed at Naruto. Get your filthy hands off of my little sister, you bastard. Edge and Gon stepped back as this was quite uncharacteristic of him. He was usually very calm, the calmest amongst them. Apparently Akira was his limit. Sister. Naruto repeated questioningly. No way. If it looks like a guy, talks like a guy, fights like a guy, feels like a guy, Edge cut in, trying to hold back some laughter. Not getting the joke. Naruto shook his head while looking at the three gang members. No, he doesn't feel like a guy, but then again it could be because the biker jacket is super soft. It's good, maybe I should get one. Where'd you? Naruto was about to ask Akira where he got the jacket but looked to see that Akira had taken his helmet off. And Akira indeed was not a he. Akira was a teenage girl with shoulder-length brown hair and a gentle-looking face that was twisted in pure embarrassment right at that moment. You pervert. Akira then smashed a totally unprepared Naruto in the head with her helmet, sending him flying into another set of tables and chairs. Naruto picked himself out of the pile of patio furniture with a nasty cut bleeding down from his hairline. Ow. Daigo kicked one of the knocked askew chairs out of the way and started walking towards Naruto with Gon following and Edge doing the same only with more satisfaction. I can't let this stand, Uzumaki. You don't get to violate my little sister like that. No one does. Even Akira started walking towards him. Even though she was now more silent and reserved without the helmet, she still had a burning aura of anger around her. That is just unforgivable, kid. And then Akira's motorcycle flew through the air in projectile style and hit Gon and Edge, knocking them for quite a loop to say the very least. Daigo and Akira's jaws dropped while Naruto just looked on in complete amazement. Holy crap. Who threw a motorcycle? And with that he found himself hoisted up to his feet from behind by Sakura and another girl with shoulder-length black hair that he didn't know, but she was wearing a red warm-up jacket and red warm-up pants for the volleyball team of her school, which wasn't Ghetto High, nor was it Naruto and Sakura's school. Oh. Thanks. Who are you, by the way? My name's Natsu, the new girl that stood taller than Naruto said as she glared up at the offending Ghetto High kids. I'm Sakura's friend. Never met you, but I have heard about you, and from more than just her too. So I figured I'd try to help. This seems just as good a reason as any to fight. At that point, Batsu strode into view, dusting his hands off and wiping oil onto his pants. You can't stay out of trouble for a minute, can you? He said to Naruto, working his arm around in a stretch. I think I tore a muscle throwing that stupid thing. Ikimonji, Daigo said as Gon popped right back up from being hit by a motorcycle and pulled Edge to his feet as he was still disoriented and stumbling about. So, you're with Uzumaki today. And the two women to boot. He looked over at Naruto who was dabbing at the blood going down his face. Looks like you've got some friends, kid. Naruto looked around between Sakura who was fussing over how beaten up he looked already, Batsu who had made it to their side and was placing some fingerless orange gloves onto his hands in preparation, and Natsu who even smiled amusedly at him and shook her head as she produced a volleyball. From seemingly nowhere, yeah. And they're pretty damn good too, he admitted. Why are you here? Seemed to be the only thing that Naruto could say at the moment, as he had repeated himself well over 12 times already. Each time sounded more desperate than the last. For the love of God, why are you here? He had been sitting in class and then suddenly found himself called out to the front of the school to be checked out for the day immediately. Who on earth could check him out of school? He didn't have any guardians or anything of the sort. And then he saw 3 people standing outside of the front gate right by a limousine, and this brings us to the current situation. Why are you here? Why the hell are you here? Naruto kept stressing repeatedly as he stood in front of Karin and her entourage Shibazaki and Ishizaki. I have school. Man, I never thought I'd use school as an excuse to not do anything else before. It made him feel dirty to try and do so. Excuse me, Uzumaki-san. Karin said, though she didn't sound apologetic in the least, but I pay you handsomely. Thus, you do my bidding. You do remember the terms of our arrangement, do you not? You fight and climb the rankings, and I will make sure that you are well compensated in return. She smirked and laughed with her hand covering her mouth. I more or less own you if you remember correctly. First of all, nobody owns Uzumaki Naruto, Naruto replied, crossing his arms stubbornly and squinting his eyes at her. They rent him. At best they lease him. But definitely nobody owns him. Second of all, don't you have school? I begin to tire of my school, Karin stated dismissively. I have had Shibazaki look into moving me to a different one. A transfer. Perhaps this one. She ignored the look of pure horror on Naruto's face and turned to walk back towards her limousine. Well, come on then. We are wasting precious time. With a snap of her fingers, Ishizaki's hulking form picked a catatonic Naruto up and carried him to the back of the limo before getting in the front with Shibazaki. What wonderful weather for a day trip, Karin stated brightly as she and Naruto rode in the back of a chopper with Shibazaki and Ishizaki in the front. Naruto was sitting next to her in his fighting equipment, marveling at the sight of Japan from the air. Is it not simply exhilarating, taking your days off to travel? It's not a day off. It's Thursday, Naruto replied glibly, only souring his mood for a second before childlike interest took over once again at the view. He was ignoring the fact that Ishizaki had made Karin tea while they were in the chopper and wondered how she was drinking it so evenly and gracefully, but he just chalked it up to some whole rich girl home training kind of thing and let it lie. For Karin though, it was interesting observing how commoners like Naruto took to the things that someone like became used to years ago. Flying in a helicopter was really no different to her than catching a train was for Naruto. But the time for such an indulgence was over. It was time to make sure her little vanity investment began to pay itself, or himself, off. Let us get down to business, shall we? Karin said, crossing one leg gracefully over the other, getting Naruto's attention away from looking outside to look upon her instead. I have given you ample time to get your affairs in order, and get used to the idea I proposed to you weeks ago. Now, if you want our arrangement to continue, I demand to begin seeing some results. You will begin fighting within the top 20 Japanese fighters listed on that site immediately. Are we clear? Really? Well, she did kind of have a point as far as Naruto was concerned. It had been over a month since August when they had struck the deal. September was in full swing and it was almost October. If he was her, he would have also wanted something done by winter as well. Alright, where are we going today then, boss lady? Boss lady, how boorishly delightful. Karin smiled. At least he was aware of who was signing the checks here. Taking a sip of her tea, she sighed contently, both at its taste and the fact that Naruto seemed to be on board with the whole plan to fight the best. Karin only then began to explain, to the greater Tokyo metropolitan area, of course. Many of the greater fighters Japan are hard to pinpoint. But I managed to locate one that should stop the speculation of if you are deserving of being ranked or not. This is where we are headed now. And you had to pull me out of school for this. Would you rather I used your one day off on Sunday? Touché. The two sat in silence with Karin continuing to drink her tea, and Naruto making sure he had his phone with him in case someone called him. He held back a laugh, as by now he had gotten several worried text messages from his friends, wondering if he'd been abducted. Eventually, after responding to his friends and scrolling through his contact list to look at Karin's number, he shrugged to himself and raised his phone to take a picture of her in between her refined-looking sips. He smiled when he saw that it was actually a good shot. To him, it captured the essence of who she was as a person, more or less. Satisfied with his phone picture, Naruto placed it as the picture that would come up whenever Karin called him. He looked up at said girl to find her giving him an amused look of interest. Feeling like he had been caught doing something he shouldn't have, he went to explain, "Hey, I kind of have a picture of all of my friends by their numbers in my phone. I didn't have yours. So we are friends to you." The smirk on Karen's face never fell as she asked her question, "And you believe that I would freely associate with a commoner to that extent?" He wasn't sure if that was a trick question or not, so he just answered it earnestly, "Yes. You're not just my boss, and I've had way worse friends than you." It was true, he had worse friends before. Karin had never even really done anything to antagonize him outside of fighting him the one time, and that had been more fun than actually dangerous. It wouldn't even be the first time that Naruto found a friend in a client of his either. Even Batsu was technically one of those. "So, tell me why you're a fighter anyway," Naruto asked. If they were going to be friends, he wanted to try to get to know her better. There's got to be a reason, right? "Do you really wish to know the answer to that question?" Karin said, holding out her empty teacup as Ishizaki turned around in his front seat and gave her a refill without spilling a drop in the moving chopper. Naruto nodded eagerly, a grin on his face. "Very well. I suppose we have time before landing," she said as she could begin to see the very large city's outskirts in the distance. "Well, as you probably know already, I am the heir to the Kanzuki fortune. You also probably believe that this led to a rather easy upbringing, am I correct?" When she saw Naruto hesitantly nod, she smirked. "I am afraid you would be sorely mistaken on that front then, Uzumaki-san. You can just call me Naruto if you want to," Naruto said before raising an eyebrow in confusion. "How was it hard though?" Calmly taking a sip of her tea as if the answer didn't matter, Karin addressed it. "Simply put, my father wanted a male child to inherit everything. He wound up with me instead. I would like to believe that he was not completely displeased by my gender, but I would probably be lying to you if I said as much. Against his daughter. That wasn't cool with Naruto. Misogyny in general wasn't cool. Naruto knew more than a dozen women that could knock his teeth out on any given day, Karin included. That's messed up, Karin. But that doesn't really tell me much. I was not finished, Naruto-san. You are quite the impatient one even when I am volunteering to tell you this story," Karin said, chiding Naruto in a way before continuing. "Father has put up multiple tests in my path to deem me worthy of receiving my inheritance. When I was 9 years old, I was left in a forest miles away from civilization with a mere pittance of food and water to sustain me. I was told that if I did not return safely, I would be disowned. I did this in 4 days when it took my father 2 weeks. That's some forest of death crap, only without the giant deadly animals and plants," Naruto muttered. "What was that?" Karin asked, having overheard him. "Nothing," Naruto said, trying to deflect. Keep going." Karin looked at Naruto suspiciously, but did as instructed, making sure to note this forest of death place. Perhaps it is where he received his training. Shoving that to the back of her mind to look up in a world atlas later, Karin did continue on with her tale. "The next one was simply a display of my superior charm and beauty. I was to charm a minimum of 5,000 of the world's gentlemen, or I could never receive the inheritance." Wow, that was also very messed up. And it just had to beg the question, Naruto just couldn't help himself, "And you really got that many? You know that you're like 15 years old, right? Even if you got one a day that would take like a lot of years." Math was not really Naruto's strong suit. "That is what galas and multiple other social gatherings are for, Naruto-san," Karin said with a babying smile, patting Naruto on the cheek. "At this point I am at 329, 6. Is that correct, Shibazaki?" she asked her steward who was flying the chopper. "Uzumaki-san makes 3,297, Kanzuki-sama." Naruto frowned at the pilot. "Steward, man of many talents, she didn't charm me." "Ah, but I have charmed you into my service," Karin reasoned nonchalantly with a confident smirk. "So yes, I have indeed charmed you, Uzumaki Naruto, number 3,297. even if it is not what you would consider charmed. Still, there is plenty of time for that as well. Eventually you will fall for my beauty as well. She flipped her hair back once haughtily. It is, of course, inevitable. Commoners often desire what they cannot obtain. Right, Naruto said skeptically before shooting a glance at the city of Tokyo. He had seen it from above a few times before due to other times he worked in Tokyo for Karin, but he wondered how it looked at night instead of in the daytime like it currently was. Your story. Oh, yes. Where was I? Willing to leave the topic of charm where it was in order to continue talking about herself, Karin carried on, and the latest test was just last year, as a matter of fact. I had to stop a stampede of 50 bulls all by myself. Bulls. Naruto remembered his own run-in with bulls right before the final round of the Chunin exams. Clones barely helped him out of that mess. How did you do that? I'm certain video of the feat is on the internet somewhere if you look hard enough, assured Karin, smiling the entire time. It took place during the running with the bulls in Spain, so I'm certain someone somewhere has posted footage of it, and he would definitely be looking for it later the moment he was free. Once again, all of this was very messed up. And it still confused Naruto about why he was doing this for Karin. Okay. Why exactly do you want me to do all of this again? I'm confused. You're strong, and from what you just told me you're stronger than you showed me when we fought. To defeat the best fighter in the entire world, of course. She then pointed expressively at Naruto for added emphasis, which will be you, I might add. It is the entire reason I am your manager. Yeah, I kind of get that, Naruto said with a confused expression on his whisker-marked face, but why don't you just fight your way up through the rankings yourself? I'm sure you could do it. A laugh came from Karin as she shook her head, seemingly at Naruto's naivety. Why does it matter how the job is accomplished as long as the proper results are achieved? If by defeating you after you have defeated all other obstacles in my way I can attain the same thing that I otherwise would have had to struggle endlessly for, why would I not take that course of action? All you need is victory, Naruto-san. It doesn't matter how you obtain it. Sitting back in his chair, Naruto started tying his Konoha headband around his head tightly to prepare for the eventual disembarkment from the helicopter and remembered his own thoughts on becoming Hokage in Konoha one day. I don't agree with that, Karin. The journey to get to what you want is important too. If I actually do end up being the best fighter in the world, it'll be because I was prepared for it, because I grew into it. But you're the boss. You don't really care what I think, do you? Gasp, you think? In a faint surprised manner was the first response that came to Karin's mind, but she thought better of it while she was drinking. It wouldn't do to have him upset at her at the moment. There was still travel that needed to be done and then they would have to fly back to Aohura City later, thus changing her response. The ideals of the lower class mean very little to me. Apparently having no shame in openly admitting such, Karin continued to drink her tea as they flew towards a helipad situated on the top of a skyscraper. I hope you are prepared to take your first step up the ladder, Naruto-san. Do not disappoint me. Afternoon. Aohura City. Sakura's house. In Sakura's living room she sat on a couch next to Kei and Ibuki, who wound up being friends with the two of them by way of Naruto over the past 2 weeks that she had been a student in their school. Ibuki was a sweet girl. Energetic and mischievous, but well-meaning. It didn't take any effort at all for Sakura to get along with her. At the moment, Sakura was in a very good mood due to the fact that she was playing video games with another person and happened to be winning for once. You're the second ninja I've ever had in my house, and you're by far the worst of the two at video games. Ah, I've never played before. Give me a break, Ibuki complained in vain as Sakura had already stomped her several times straight in a fighting game that she had retired from playing since she herself found herself repeatedly being decimated by her little brother and by Naruto and his well-trained hands. Oh, damn it, she said as Sakura knocked her out once more. Kei shook her head in amusement before addressing the kunoichi in the group of girls. So, how do you like going to school at Tamagawa Minami High? You're adjusting way better to school here than Naruto did. We thought it was just something that he wasn't used to since he was a ninja, but now after seeing you pretty much fit right in, we know it was just more of him being weird. I'm not a ninja the same way Naruto is, Ibuki said, remembering watching Naruto fight. They used the same weapons, but other than that there wasn't much they had in common other than the speed and general philosophy, but I love going to school here. No random ambushes from teachers trying to make sure we stay attentive, and there are so many cute boys in this town. I'm just upset that I have to leave and go back to my village before the sun sets. A satisfied Sakura set her controller down, content with the victories she finally got over some kind of living person. I wonder what happened to Naruto today. None of our friends have heard anything from him. He isn't around town causing any trouble anywhere. He's not at his house either, and he's not answering his phone. Kay held up her phone and waved it in Sakura's face. He sent that message 2 hours ago while we were still in class saying he was fine. At that point her phone vibrated with the signal of another message and Kay opened her phone before letting out a yell of alarm at what she saw. Ah. Oh wait. He has those stupid clones to do things like that for him. Bad joke. What? Ibuki asked curiously only for Kay to hold up her phone and show the ninja girl the same picture that Sakura was currently looking at on her own phone. Naruto swan diving off of the top of a skyscraper with no support. Ha, that's so cool. Where is he? Greetings from Tokyo, Sakura said, reading out the actual message that came with the picture. I'm fine. Not dead yet for all of you babies out there. I'm working for Karin right now. Wish me luck. Sakura sighed heavily after finishing reading. Karin. Of course. Who else has the power to pull Naruto out of school? Kay laughed and put her phone back up in her bag. I'm sure he loved that. You mean Kanzuki Karin? Ibuki asked with a bit of whimsy. Well aware of the daughter of the richest family in the Pacific and possibly the world, he works for her. Wow. I wonder what she makes him do, or how much she pays. She then noticed Sakura and Kay's phones and sighed. I want a smartphone so bad, but technology like that isn't allowed in my village. So, Kay replied with a shrug, you're a ninja. So sneak it in. You can do that, right? It's not like they check you whenever you go home. Ibuki's eyes lit up and she looked at Kay thankfully for the idea. You're just now considering this an option. You've been coming back and forth for 2 weeks. I don't like the idea of helping Ibuki-chan break her village's rules, Kay-chan, Sakura said, but relented a bit when she saw Ibuki's shining eyes begging her to agree that it was a good idea or at least okay for her to try. But I guess it's her choice in the end. Fine. I guess we can take her to the mall to get a phone before she has to go home. The bright-spirited Kunoichi jumped up in celebration and grabbed both girls to drag them on out of the house in a hurry. With Naruto, Tokyo, Japan. From the helicopter right to a limo, that was how Naruto, Karin, and her entourage traveled to wherever Karin was supposed to be taking him. Your family lives in Tokyo, right? Are we going to stop by their place for a bit? We will not going there today, Karin said, her cheek in her palm as she looked out the window. We are unable to get there by car anyway. Do you know how large my family's property is? You need a chartered plane to land at our airstrip just to get access. We have our own rivers, mountains, and even our own climate. You do not. Stop by the Kanzuki compound. Oh, that is such bullshit, Naruto spouted freely, not caring that Shibazaki was glaring at him for the use of such language around Karin. I'm not that stupid, Karin. That's totally impossible. Nobody owns that much property in Tokyo. Nothing is impossible. Not if you have enough money to afford it, and I can assure you that we most certainly do. As she spoke, her eyes lit up slightly, getting the Kanzuki heiress to perk up noticeably. Ah, we have arrived at last. The limo slowly rolled to a stop and the two up front got out to open her door as she gave Naruto some instruction. Your opponent is more than likely inside. He owns this bathhouse. If he is not there, then at least we can learn where to find him within. Before he could ask for more information, Karen's door was opened and she gracefully stepped out. Of course, no one opened Naruto's door, so he did it himself and got out to quickly catch up Karin and her servants. Hey, Karin, who am I fighting anyway? You never told me. He didn't really care, but it was good to have some kind of background. They walked into the bathhouse to find that it was quite populated. Populated with sumo wrestlers of all people. The four visitors walked through the place with Karin not caring any less about the very large and underdressed men walking around them, even though Ishizaki kept trying to shield her eyes until she elbowed him in the stomach to get him to stop. Karin, Naruto said again, this time with more trepidation, who am I supposed to be fighting? He asked her again. She didn't say anything at first, she just smirked shrewdly at him before clearing her voice and speaking up quite loudly, Edmund Honda. Upon hearing that man's name called out, not only did Naruto freeze in place, the routine chatter of the place quieted down, even with the men in baths stopping what they were doing to see two kids and a pair of servants fully dressed. This is the bathhouse owned by Edmund Honda, is it not? I am requesting his presence if he is here. Edmund Honda. Naruto knew who that was. If you lived in Japan and kept up with athletics, you knew who that man was, and he was none too happy with it. Oh, you bitch. Oh, you stone cold bitch. I am going to get you back so bad for this, TT Ibeo. A heavy series of footsteps started coming their way, getting Naruto to turn and see a man that was a few inches taller than him but was exceedingly larger, as he was a sumo wrestler like most of the others in the building. He had his black hair up in a traditional Chanmage hairstyle, wore red kabuki makeup on his face around his eyes, and wore a short blue yukata over his massive frame. Eventually he reached the visiting party and looked down at Karin and a wide-eyed Naruto. Looking between them, the man spoke up in a rather gruff, authoritative voice, I'm Edmund Honda. Why are a pair of kids like you looking for me? He spared another look at Naruto. I don't think I can train him. He's too puny. Puny. You. Naruto thought to himself. Before he could even respond to the man, Karin pointed at Naruto and spoke with full self-assurance and complete feeling of security, we are not here for training. But he is here to fight you. Good luck, Naruto-san, she said as she and her entourage moved out of the way and got out of the vicinity. That's how you try and set this up. And, good luck. Naruto looked down at the floor and noticed something that had been concealed by the steam of the bathhouse. Blue tiles all over the floor with the exception of a large circle made of yellow tile and two yellow bars on the ground where he and Honda happened to be standing. A ring. That was just bad luck all around. Yo, what's up? Naruto said, forcing a grin on his face and extending his hand to the large sumo, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meetacha. Honda gave an amicable smile and shook Naruto's hand heartily. Same, he said before continuing with something that Naruto wished he hadn't heard as the grip tightened. I've heard of you. Challenge accepted. In one move, Honda held onto Naruto's hand and swung him around overhead before throwing him away. Naruto screamed for dear life as his body sailed through the air and hit the wall with a mural of a sunrise, a mountain, and a man before he fell into a tub full of water. Everyone in the bathhouse let out a collective ooh when Naruto hit the wall with an audible smack, but started laughing once he fell into the water. Ha! Can't you do better than that? The elite sumo said with his hands proudly on his hips as the entire place seemed to get a kick out of the one-hit finish. Karin was not pleased by Naruto's performance thus far. Naruto-san, I swear, you had better not let me down right out of the gate. Amid the laughter, Naruto pulled himself up from underneath the water, leaning against the side of the tub as he spat water out onto the floor and smoothed his soaked blonde hair back to keep it out of his eyes. That was funny to you guys, huh? The laughter continued, even from Honda as he still stood in the ring. While he was laughing, he pulled the top half of his yukata down off of his shoulders, showing that he was almost purely muscle. This did not intimidate Naruto any further than the prospect of fighting a sumo head-on though. Well, here's my punchline. The water in the tub Naruto was in began to churn before a clone shot out of the water like a torpedo at Honda. The big man narrowly turned to the side to avoid the clone punching right into his belly as it rocketed past and hit the far wall, dispelling. The same thing happened again, and again, And again, at a faster and faster rate as clones just kept blasting out of the water, bombarding Honda, who simply couldn't dodge anymore. The joke was officially over as far as the sumo was concerned. He ground his feet down tightly and took up a sumo stance before rocketing off repeated hand thrusts in front of himself so fast that the eye couldn't see the movements. Hyaku no te binta 100 hand slap. The blows connected with the clones, offense turned defense, shielding him so that he wouldn't be harmed. Popping noises sounded off repeatedly, with smoke bursting in his face from the repeated demises of shadow clones. What talent! He's blocking back one of Naruto-san's strongest techniques with just brute force in his hands. Karin thought to herself as she saw Honda force back Naruto's clone barrage. His hands were moving so fast that she couldn't even see them move. It might have been the humidity of the bathhouse finally getting to her a bit, or it might have been the fact that she might have been stressing over the fight just a smidge, but a bead of sweat could be seen forming on the girl's head as her eyes raptly paid attention to the unfolding combat. Come on, Naruto-san, Karin said under her breath as raucous cheering from the other sumo wrestlers went up in the bathhouse. You can do it. I'm certain of it. Suddenly, the clones stopped flying out of the large tub with no original Naruto left in sight in the water, confusing the hell out of Honda. I didn't knock the real one out during that pile-up, did I? I didn't notice if I did or not. Bunshin Kaden Kakato Otoshi, clone spinning heel drop. Naruto and 5 clones fell from the steam-concealed ceiling of the bathhouse and smashed Honda with axe kicks that slammed down on his head and shoulders. While his attempt at Uzumaki Naruto Mugen Renden, Naruto Uzumaki Infinite Combo, didn't bear him any fruit, Naruto didn't miss a beat in return, as the original that struck Honda in the head with a kick landed first and lunged at the huge sumo without fear, striking him in the face several times, being forced to leave his feet each time to deliver a significant blow to the most vulnerable place on his body in Naruto's opinion, the head, instead of his large stomach. But each shot smacked audibly off of the large man's head and put a concerned hush over the bathhouse. Moving in towards Honda as he had him on his heels now, Naruto was stopped cold from continuing his barrage by a slap to the side of the head from a massive hand that he swore busted his eardrum and knocked him to the ground on the slick tile floor. Seeming to get angry at their creators being stricken, the clones attacked again with a vengeance, but Honda's defenses were back up and the best they got out of the exchange were a few punches and kicks to the body, which might as well have been them hitting sandbags, he was so thick. With a few sweeping arm swings, the clones met their demise, but in the end they brought Naruto enough time to stand back up and even to freely stumble around to regain his equilibrium as he bled from his ear to signify his busted eardrum. Why is someone as young as you looking for a fight against me anyway? Honda figured to ask as he charged a wounded-looking Naruto down only to be surprised by Naruto's raw speed and ability to adapt to his injury, not knowing that Naruto had a demon within him that had already restored the portion of his inner ear that kept his brain balanced even if he still couldn't hear out of that ear. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. Naruto slammed the spinning blue orb into Honda, though he got his very large arms up to block a lot of the blow. Still, he was propelled away from Naruto like he was hit by a truck and smashed into the tile wall of the bathhouse, because my boss lady told me to. Naruto responded belatedly with the blood at this point mixing with his sweat to make the injury to his ear look far worse than it actually was. Karin was not concerned with Naruto's well-being if he was still able to fight on that level. More than being able to defend himself, he was dictating the action. I do not even know if he realized that he just utilized a brilliant strategy. She thought to herself, a thoughtful finger placed under her chin as she continued to observe. He could have cancelled his Rasengan attack, but he continued with it and instead of trying to hit Honda's body he settled for the arms, but that could be just as important a move to make. If Naruto broke, cracked, fractured, did something to Honda's arms in the last exchange he had either significantly lessened the effective, or had taken out a powerful weapon of the sumo completely. It was up for speculation if Naruto even realized what he had just done. He had opened a window for himself to win that fight if he realized what he had started and how to take advantage of it. But Karin wouldn't say a word about it aloud. No, she would not. If Naruto couldn't win this fight without someone barking orders to him or anyone advising him through it, then it was better to find out now than later, when there were times she would not be around like she was right then. The outsides of Honda's forearms had angry dark purple spiral bruises on. Telltale marks of what could have occurred if he hadn't blocked Naruto's attack. He pulled himself off of the broken pieces of tile wall as they fell to the floor and stared Naruto down before letting out a chuckle. Strong. You're very skilled. He spared a glance Karin's way and raised an eyebrow before returning his attention to Naruto. And you've chosen quite a pretty young lady to do all of this for. Pretty manly of you to call out someone like me to try and win her heart. Naruto's jaw dropped in astonishment while Karin just smirked to show her amusement to the sumo's statement. What? Are you out of your mind? I should finish beating you up just out of principle. She's my boss, and she hates me. I do not hate you, Naruto-san, Karin corrected. I just dislike you with great intensity. You heard the lady, Naruto shouted at Honda as he formed 3 more Kage Bunshin to go up against Honda and made 3 hand seals to start another jutsu to hedge all of his bets. Chakura Tanki Sha Chakra Spitfire. When Naruto ed his head back to spit his chakra projectile at Honda smirked and went spread eagle as he seemed to gracefully and quickly float into the air headfirst directly over Naruto like a kite who, due to the angle of his head, got a good view of just how high into the air a 300+ pound man could get. On his way up, he smashed his way through Naruto's clones with his head and defeated them. It was admittedly very impressive if it wasn't about to get so utterly terrifying. For a moment, Naruto swore that he had Sharingan, because he saw the next few moments in slow motion. In his mind, absolutely everything slowed down as Honda flipped through the air over top of him to transfer into a direct butt drop. Sumo no Shibuki, Sumo Splash. Honda landed backside first on the ground only to hear a crack. Thinking that it was probably Naruto, ribs and or sternum, he stood up and looked down only to gasp when he saw a broken bucket full of purifying salt underneath him instead of a thoroughly smashed blonde teen boy. Why was this kid so damn tricky? At that moment, a tray sailed through the air like a shuriken and bounced off of the back of Honda's head, knocking him to the ground with the force of the unexpected throw. Standing next to Karin was Naruto, with a manic grin on his face and his arms still extended from the throw of the pan. Why did you throw Ishizaki's serving tray? Karin asked him, crossing her arms over her chest and sounding slightly miffed at the wanton disregard for her servant's things. Especially a thing that was used to carry her refreshments. Because I don't have anything on me that won't kill this guy, and I know that the stupid thing is totally solid. Naruto replied, quite pleased with himself before he saw the reprimanding look on her face. Hey, he can have it back. Both kids looked over at Honda, seeing him standing back up with the tray in his hands, bending it angrily. Never mind. That is coming out of your payment, Karin said, and if you lose this fight, you will still be required to reimburse me. Did that mean she wouldn't pay him if he lost? He didn't have the time to think of that, instead choosing to attack again against the sumo that was progressively growing angrier. Honda didn't know what to make of Naruto. One moment he fought directly with honor, going right at the man, and the next he was getting hits from the blind spot, tactically retreating and hitting him with random objects like the tray. He was still twice Naruto's size though. And Naruto was directly charging him again. But it wasn't as direct as Naruto wanted him to think it was. Right before getting within Honda's effective range of reach, Naruto quickly formed his cross-hand seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. 3 shadow clones popped into existence. The first Naruto dove at Honda. The sumo caught the first copy as a reflex and simply threw him backwards over his head. The second Naruto did the same thing as the first, half a second after the first one, shoving both feet into Honda's fully exposed stomach due to his throwing the first clone over his head and doubling him over. The third Naruto jumped up and delivered a hard punt kick to Honda's head that snapped his head up and back, sending blood flying into the air. With a flourish, the last in the original Naruto finished with a jumping punch that slammed right into the mammoth man's face, and down he went like a tree, falling backwards onto the ground with Naruto collapsing to the ground along with him due to the angle of the attack. Good heavens, Shibazaki said in amazement at the utter brutality and simplistic misdirection of Naruto's previous attack. Naruto had to hit Honda with upwards of 5 punches in order to register the same damage that Honda could deal with one. He spared a glance towards his mistress Karin, who was watching the fight intently at this point, not speaking or making any comments. Children should not be capable of fighting like this. Naruto pulled himself up off of the floor, dripping sweat and a little bit of blood as the humidity inside of the bathhouse was smothering while engaging in such a physical activity. When he felt Honda's hand wrap around his shin and looked down to find a very angry sumo holding onto his leg with blood running down his face above his brow, Naruto felt like he was in some kind of monster movie. With surprising agility and scary strength, Honda sprang up to his feet and slammed Naruto to the ground in one move, depositing him face first onto the tile floor. Before Naruto could even let out a groan of pain, a palm strike was delivered to his back from above that cracked the tile beneath him. Ga. Oicho Neguru, Oicho throw, Honda muttered as he pulled his hand off of Naruto and grabbed him by the back of the collar to lift him off of the ground. That wasn't bad at all. You've done very well for yourself. Go home. Heal up. Fight again another day, little one. He heard Naruto mumble and slur something under his breath that he couldn't hear. What was that? The slurring was just a feint to get Honda to put his head closer to Naruto's mouth in order to hear him better. Chakura Tenki Sha, Chakra Spitfire. The blast radius exploded off of the side of Honda's head and in Naruto's own face, but the sumo dropped Naruto to the ground where he landed on his feet with pops and cracks of his back that showed how unhealthy he happened to be at that moment and that it wasn't all just acting. A sneak attack from Naruto's move left scorching injuries on the entire right side of Honda's face, knocking his hairstyle out of place and forcing him to stumble back, both of his eyes bloodshot red from the concussive damage of the chakra shot bouncing and exploding off of his head. Naruto formed one shadow clone that was crouching, its back in just as bad shape as his. But it was able to do its job, as Naruto held his right hand to the clone and both of them formed a denser, considerably bigger Rasengan between them. Honda was not willing to try and block again. With the two clones holding the dangerous-looking orb, he set himself in an intense sumo stance preparing for Naruto to make his move. Naruto stood up and he and his clone ran forward to charge Honda down, who responded by shooting his hands out at Naruto in a blur, preparing to overwhelm him. Hyaku no Te Binta, 100-hand slap. Odama Rasengan, Great Ball Rasengan. The large ball of chakra hit against Honda's rapidly thrusting hands with the sound of a belt sander. Even though he stood upright, Honda's entire body started sliding back as if he was a sled on an icy slope. With a mighty final yell, Naruto drove Honda into the wall with an explosion erupting from that spot and debris from the tile flying everywhere. Karin couldn't help but smile as she heard a pained grunt come from the place where Naruto and Honda had hit the wall, and she saw that Honda was sitting against a crater in the wall, his arms visibly broken with the top layer of skin from his hands to the elbow mangled like tissue paper. Breathing heavily, Naruto looked down at Honda. You're strong. But don't ever underestimate me, he said, before turning and limping out of the bathhouse, holding his back and hoping that it would only take an hour or so for to slip his vertebrae back where it was meant to be from its slightly askew state. He stopped when he heard Karin clapping, applauding from where she had been standing with her entourage, and took a moment to point at her. Don't ever do that again. With a huff, Karin watched as Naruto walked out, silently whining about his back, swearing he slipped a disc or two as he went outside into the early evening air. And just what is he so upset about? She asked Shibazaki and Ishizaki, the latter of whom was cradling his bent-up serving platter like something precious. He won, did he not? 2 days later, Alhura City, arcade. Are you still mad at her, man? Batsu asked Naruto as he was seated and turning the wheel of a racing game. The two had met up after Batsu's school let out to do something random, mostly because Batsu had not heard the story of Naruto going to Tokyo to fight one of the most famous sumo wrestlers in the entire world in its entirety. I don't get it. You won. That Kanzuki Karin definitely isn't the nicest girl I've ever met, for sure. But I don't get why you're still pissed off at her. When she said she wanted me to start winning fights, I didn't think the first person she'd make me go up against would be that famous. I actually knew who this guy was without being told first, Naruto said, leaning against the racing chair of Batsu as his friend fell into fourth place. I can still feel the guy cracking my ribs. Batsu was listening, but he didn't seem to be caring too much or seeing the problem. Yeah, I don't see what the problem here is. You just gotta win inside of the top 10 of that site's last listing. Be happy, have a Coke and a smile, and shut the up. Okay, Naruto said, with his eye twitching, wishing that he could kick the chair hard enough to dislodge Batsu without breaking the damn thing. Would you fight Honda right now? What am I fighting him for? Batsu asked, trying to get some context to the would-be hypothetical scenario. Nothing, Naruto replied, you're not fighting him for anything. He didn't do anything to you. You're fighting him just because. And he's coming to take your head off, by the way. A scoff came from Batsu at the rather obvious answer. A street punk. The argument could be made that Batsu was one, but crazy enough to fight the number 7 ranked street fighter in Japan for nothing. Absolutely not. Hell no. I wouldn't fight him for no reason. I like not going to the hospital for stupid reasons, thank you. That's the point, Naruto stated with a slight kick to Batsu's racing chair as he made his way to another machine and put in his coins to begin playing a side-scrolling beat-em-up game. I don't like surprises like that. If that's how it's going to go every time, then I might as well tell Karin that I'm going back on the deal right now. I was not aware that professional ninja quit on their assignments. Batsu's head snapped around and he crashed his game car once he heard the female voice, seeing Karin standing there with her 2 attendants. Naruto on the other hand hadn't turned around at all, but he did have a bit of a scowl on his face. How'd you know I was here? Naruto asked without turning around. Deadpanning a look at Naruto, Batsu responded instead of Karin, you stick out like a sore thumb, and you hang out in specific places. You're not as hard to find as you think you are. You have been skipping school ever since your last victory, and you haven't picked up your business phone once, Karin stated, walking over to the arcade game that Naruto was playing, her eyes drifting towards his hands and wondering what he saw in such a thing. Are you still upset with me? I paid you immediately upon our return to my. It's not the money, Karin. Naruto snapped suddenly, not caring about the game any longer and walking away from the machine altogether. You threw me into a fight with one of the most dangerous guys in the world, and you didn't even tell me. I went in cold. He shook his head. What am I? Are we actually friends like I thought we could be, or am I just some asset? He saw her open her mouth and cut her off. If you give me that, I'm a commoner. Crap, I swear, we will be fighting right here. Batsu wasn't expecting Naruto to just storm off and was prepared to follow after his buddy. Naruto, where are you? He stopped trying to go after him when he saw Naruto turn his head towards him and shake it. Sigh, alright. I'll call you later then. For once, when dealing with Naruto's hot-headed personality, Karin wasn't smirking in good humor out of intentionally trying to push buttons. It was easy to get Naruto to overreact, but he never legitimately flipped out before. I was simply separating business and personal affairs. You are a ninja, why can't you? Because I can't do that with friends. I won't. Naruto's gait slowed when he felt Karin was following him, but he started walking when he felt Shibazaki and Ishizaki following her like always. She thought she would catch up to him and they could hash out something that was 2 days overdue, but when he started walking away again she realized that her entourage was to blame. He's giving me a choice, to make this professional or personal. She narrowed her eyes at his back once she saw him make his way outside the arcade and turned to address her two attendants. You two, remain here while I have a conversation with Naruto-san. But Kanzuki-sama, you saw how angry he was. If he attacks you, Shibazaki started to say until a sharp glare from Karin cut him off. If he attacks me, you would only be useful as a human shield in that situation, Karin said, turning to head outside after Naruto. Naruto-san would tear you apart like stationery in 3 seconds or less. With that said, she walked outside to see Naruto attracting a measure of attention by sitting atop a streetlight. She was not about to climb a streetlight to have a conversation, and she was not about to yell it up to him, so she stomped her foot on the ground, the reverberation of her footstep actually getting his attention. She pointed to the limo on the curb with a measure of authority. Get in the car, Naruto-san. Naruto looked down at her before looking back off in the distance. No. Get in the car right now. I'm not going on a mission for you right now, I don't feel like it. Instead of Naruto's patience running out, this time it was Karin's. Get in the damn car. She shouted. I am trying to have a private and personal conversation with you, and I cannot do that with you perched on the streetlight like a common crow. Now get down, or I will make you. That was a completely new experience. Naruto had never seen Karin lose her cool for a single moment before. Not once. She was always in control of, well, everything, especially her own emotions. She was composed and confident. And he could still see the confidence, but none of the composure. You're gonna make me. He almost challenged, how are you gonna make me do anything that I don't want to do? She didn't reply this time, just looking up at him angrily and pointing once more with authority at the limo, with all of the people officially stopping to look at the two of them. She turned towards them and dared anyone to consider that she had been in the middle of a scene, and everyone just went back to normal as if nothing happened. Sparing one last intent glance up at Naruto, she opened the back door to the limo and got in before shutting the door. Sometimes I hate my job. Naruto dropped down from the streetlight and onto the sidewalk, where he got directly into Karin's limousine and saw her sitting towards the back, her arms crossed over her chest, a leg over the other, that was shaking rather impatiently with her brown eyes staring him down. Climbing into the long seat directly across from her, he sat down and they just sat there staring at each other for a while until Naruto spoke up. Well, I am just taking a bit of time to think, Karin said in a terse voice. To think about why on earth you would want to ruin a sure thing based solely off a one bout of miscommunication. I made a mistake, and I freely admit that in hindsight. Perhaps I was impatient, but the way you reacted in return was utterly childish. He opened his mouth and this time she cut him off, something that is not expected or encouraged in an assassin and a mercenary, no matter what their age. Now that they had actually faced off and had a bit of a blow-up between them already, it felt like the air was cleared a bit and Naruto didn't feel so uptight anymore. You're confusing me. I don't know if you're my boss, my rival, my friend, my manager, or what. I have always been your employer, Karin replied matter-of-factly. We first became acquainted only because I hired you. Whenever you are around me, it is due to my summoning you for work purposes. She stopped when she saw that Naruto was looking like he was just about to start laughing. What is it that you find so amusing? Naruto pointed at Karin and snickered a bit. The reason you first hired me was to with Sakura-chan after you two fought and you lost to her. Remember the jobs you made me do? You made me dust your whole grand parlor because I can't go home until a mission is done, and you thought it would take me months to finish. It took 3 hours with clones. You made me do the stupidest stuff because you thought I'd complain to Sakura-chan or I'd be too tired to spend time with her and it would mess with her. How'd that work? It didn't, Karin said, remembering with a bit of a smile how efficiently Naruto handled every single stupid and seemingly insurmountable chore she gave him back when they first met last year. He'd complain a bit about how he was supposed to be a killer, and then he'd clean a massive part of her home full of nooks and crannies and knickknacks, or wash and wax all of her vehicles, or run the stupidest, most obscure and cumbersome errands in Aohura City for her. and he would make it look easy. Eventually she simply stopped trying to get to him to get to Sakura and started legitimately hiring him instead of just trying to mess with him. And your jobs haven't been actual jobs for the last 6 months. It might as well be me just hanging out with you, Naruto said, leaning back in his seat with a grin as he had a point to hone in on. As a matter of fact, that's all they are, me and you hanging out, or me getting back at somebody for you. Nonsense. Not really. Naruto was really getting insistent in his point. In his own mind he was gaining momentum. Before this whole fighting business started, do you remember the last 5 things you hired me to do? Karin looked away from him out of the darkly tinted windows but nodded regardless. Yeah, you do. How is riding with you on your yacht a mission? Who knows what could happen at sea? Karin attempted to defend. A ninja such as yourself has numerous survival skills. You were useful. Yeah, for fishing, diving off of your sail, and watching you tan all day long. Despite the sarcasm lacing his voice, that was actually a very good day for Naruto. Extremely relaxing. Okay, well, what about going shopping with you in Tokyo? It was annoying as hell after a while, but that's not a real mission. It was in case of protection. Karin argued, though the blush that began dusting her cheeks betrayed her. You're the last rich girl on the face of the planet that needs to be protected by anybody, and you know it, Naruto said as he could see Karin's face beginning to turn red and decided to go in for the kill. Admit it. The only difference between me and an escort by that point was that escorts actually got. Alright, Karin finally exclaimed, kicking Naruto in the shin to get him to shut up as her face was atomic red at this point due to the inflection of what he was about to say. I understand your point. I will admit that they weren't conventional tasks for a mercenary. Feeling like his point was proven, Naruto nodded astutely. Yep. They were things I'd do with a friend. And all I have to say about that is that if you wanted to hang out with me, you never had to pay me to do it. You're in the friend phone, not the business phone, see? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of crap, outdated by 10 years prepaid phone with only 10 minutes left on it. Business. He then pulled out his other phone that he bought to spoil himself earlier that year and showed Karin her contact info along with the picture he had taken the other day. Friend. And friends don't treat friends like fight roosters. So they were friends. Out of an entire world full of people that would kiss herons, they learned of who she was. She had met some people that didn't care that much about such a thing, and here was one. While she may have resented what she saw, a lack of respect from people like Naruto and to a far lesser extent Sakura, they were the closest people to her outside of Shibazaki and Ishizaki. But I knew that you could win that fight, Karin argued in return. You can try to hold back all you want to against your friends and against me, but I know that you are more skilled than you appear. If you look past the idiocy, the flagrant arrogance, the stupid look you have often on your face, if one can look past these things, then it is clear that you are a fantastic fighter. And I want that fighter to become the best in the world so that I can defeat him. Yes, she just insulted him several times right to his face without missing a beat, but that was who Karin was and Naruto had accepted that months ago. She was brutally honest if nothing else, and sometimes that came off with her seeming like something of a haughty, stone-cold bitch. She was most certainly not stone cold though, as evident by her next action. Fine. It seemed like Karin was accepting that if she actually wanted Naruto to remain cordial to her, she had to treat him differently from someone that she paid, because even though she paid him too, it was not because he needed the money. I suppose I will warn you well in advance the next time instead of acting so hastily. Good. Naruto chirped brightly as they had come to an understanding. I always knew you were a good girl, Karin. I keep telling people but they don't belie. But, cut in Karin, moving right in front of Naruto to hold up one finger between herself and him. I still expect you to do as I instructed of you. At the beginning of the new year, there will be a rather large open tournament. You will enter. You will win. Understood. In a defiant manner, Naruto stared Karin down as she was barely a foot away from him in order to assert her point. It seemed to be a standoff that seemed to be happening more days than in the past nowadays, but one with no real malice behind it. It was more or less Karen's way of saying, do as I say, or no money for you. And I'll find some way to make you miserable after you refuse. It sounded like he had a choice in the wording of her requests, but there really wasn't much of one. However, on Naruto's side of the stare-off, it was Naruto trying to say, are you asking me or telling me? Even though it's nice, I don't need your money, and if you try to get me back, don't start something you can't finish. It was the same song and dance as always, right down to the ending. Okay. I'll fight in it, and I'll win it. All for my vain, prissy boss lady, and her money. What was the worst that could happen? It wasn't like there could be too many people out there as tough as Honda that would come to a tournament that was only national at best, right? Good. I'm glad that matter was settled so easily, Karin remarked as she opened the door to the limousine and stepped outside. Now get out of my car. With that, Naruto climbed out of the limousine and shoved his hands into his pockets as they started to walk away back into the arcade. The air between them was no longer as tense as before, and it felt much better all around. You're still going to treat me like you own me, aren't you? It was like everything was back to normal again. Why, of course. Naturally, the pleasant smirk on Karen's face certainly said that everything was back to normal. Please note that it is only due to the fact that I do indeed own you, Naruto-san. No matter what you may believe to the contrary. Naruto scowled, his shoulders hunched. Nobody owns me, they rent me.